Hare Krishna, welcome everyone.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम।
Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
प्रभु जी हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
जय
Oh hey Vaishnava Guru, Yara Saguru, Dase Guru. Oh hey Vaishnava Guru, Yara Sagara, Dase Karuna Kari. Diyapada Chaya Sodoheya Maya. Diyapada Chaya Sodoheya Maya. Diyapada Chaya Sodoheya Maya. Tomara Charana Dhore. Tomara Charana Dhore. Chaya Vega Domi, Chaya Dosha Shodhi, Chaya Guna Deho Dase. Chaya Vega Domi, Chaya Dosha Shodhi, Chaya Guna Deho Dase. Chaya Guna Deho Dase. Satsanga deho hai amare, Chaya satsanga deho hai amare, Chaya satsanga deho hai amare, Pushechi sangero mashe.
So we will say the mantras together.
ओम ओम अज्ञानन तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानानन्दस्य
Jnana Anjana Shalakya.
I will actually read for everyone, and then you can chant along, but with muted. This will then help us all. So we'll do it together. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So last time we covered text 1 and 2. And so today we will continue on with text 3. And many of you have been doing the homework. Thank you for doing the homework. And those of you, some of you are in progress, and that is also very nice. That's completely okay. So just for recap, we'll quickly read text 1, 2, and 3, just to remind ourselves of these verses. So I'll just do this here. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jivva vegam udarapasta vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira sarvam api mam prithivim sashishyat. Can someone read the translation? Anyone would like to read the translation?
Yeah, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world.
Very nice. So this is the first verse, which sets the standard of who is the bona fide spiritual master, and what is the basic principle for advancement in spiritual life. And so now we can read text 2 of the Nectar of Instruction. So yeah, this is, please remember that this is we're moving at the speed of light in terms of spiritual life. So now, after giving the general instructions, now he's giving 6 things that will not help us in spiritual life, 6 things that will hurt us in our spiritual life. So text 2, who would like to read text 2?
Once devotional service is spoiled, when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. Number 1, eating more than necessary, or collecting more funds than required. Number 2, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Number 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Number 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And number 6, being greedy for mundane achievements.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. So these are the 6 things that spoil our devotional service and that slow us down on the process of devotional service. And the first verse we saw, the purport was so long. On this one also, the purport is very long. And on this book especially, this is why doing the homework is very, very beneficial, because when we actually read through all of these paragraphs in the purport and we reflect on them and we write on them, then we actually really start to relish the deep meaning of these words. And so if you haven't done so already, I really encourage you to read through the entire purport. These purports are long, and so that's why we cannot read them in the class. But they must be read because they're very deep, but very also easy to read. It's more practical content rather than philosophical content. Also philosophy, but also very very relevant. So that's why it's very nice to read. And now text 3, and I'll read this in Sanskrit first. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadvir bhakti prasidati. Okay, so Atul Bhaiya, would you like to read this one, the translation? If you can, if you can unmute. Or someone else would like to read?
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yes,
Hare
yes,
Krishna.
please. Hare Krishna.
I'm reading.
try.
I'm reading.
Okay,
I'm
you
reading.
read it. Okay, thank you. Yes, Hare Krishna. Please read.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of the pure devotional service. First, being enthusiastic. Second, enduring with confidence. Second, being patient. Fourth, acting according to regulative principles such as sarvanama, sar, samarnam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Fifth is abandoning the association of the non-devotees. And sixth, following the footstep of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of the pure devotional service.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. So these
Thank
are the 6 principles. We just, in the previous verse, read 6 principles that slow one's devotional service. And these are the 6 principles that are favorable, that encourage, enhance our devotional service. And this verse, therefore, is very special. It's very important for us to read, because these are the verses. This is the verse that actually tells us what we need to do positively to gain Krishna's devotional service. So again, Prabhupada has written such an extensive purport, and now I will share my slides so we can go deeply into these verses. So here are the principles that help us advance in spiritual life. And there are 6 in number. Just like there are 6 things that did not help us, there are 6 things that help us. Utsahan. Utsahan means enthusiasm. One must be always enthusiastic to advance in spiritual life. In the same way that one is enthusiastic for material things, for making money, for our beauty, our whatnot, our different material activities. We are successful because we are enthusiastic. We must have nishayat, confidence. If we are not sure whether or not a process will help us or liberate us, then we will always feel, we will not give our full heart to it. We will always feel unsure on that path. We will waver back and forth. So nishyat means confidence. Dharyat means patience. Patience. Along with our enthusiasm and confidence, we will see that the results do not manifest immediately. So therefore, patience is also important. And on each one of these, we'll say a lot more. I'm just going quickly through them, and then we'll reflect on each one. Tat karma, activities favorable for devotional service. Performing activities that are favorable for the practice of bhakti, not activities that are unfavorable. Sangatyagat, giving up the association of non-devotees. And sato vritte, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Sato vritte, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. So, this is the 6-step process for the development, for the practice of devotional service. Utsahan nishya dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyaga sato vritte shadbir bhakti prasid. So these are tried and tested processes. And now let's look at the first one. What does this practically look like? So enthusiasm. What is the definition, the dictionary definition of enthusiasm? Intense and eager enjoyment, interest or approval. Right? So when a person is very intensely eager and enjoying some activity, they have a great interest in it, they approve of it, then that is called enthusiasm. And interestingly, the Latin of this word comes from entheos, that, you know, it's actually has an enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm has a relationship with God. Confidence means the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. Firm trust. The feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. That firm trust is called confidence. And one way this confidence is manifest is one of the 6 symptoms of surrender. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. The third one is patience, the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Such a nice definition for patience. The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Prabhupada's quote, one should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So Prabhupada says in the purport, Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation, as some pseudo-yogis teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service. And for this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional activities. So, here, and we discuss this further in the Nectar of Devotion, but here Prabhupada is defining, what does bhakti mean? Bhakti means activity. Bhakti means cultivation. It means stopping a certain activity and then, along with that, engaging in other positive, good activities. But activity must be there. Activity is the nature of the soul. And therefore, bhakti is cultivation. Now, going back to these 3, Srila Prabhupada defines enthusiasm in a very specific way. He says enthusiasm, in this purport, this is his definition of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. It's called utsaha, or enthusiasm. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. So enthusiasm doesn't just mean being very, jumping up and down, being very excited about something. But what is true enthusiasm? When we're really enthusiastic about something, let's say I'm enthusiastic about being a doctor, or being a lawyer, or being an engineer, then that's endeavor executed with intelligence. Enthusiasm means that we sit carefully and we think, how can I reach my goal? And what steps do I need to take to reach that goal? So it's endeavor executed with intelligence. When we apply the intelligence in Krishna consciousness, and when that is applied to Krishna consciousness, then that is called utsaha, or enthusiasm. And you'll find this definition in the purport. Prabhupada says, endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha, or enthusiasm. So enthusiasm is thoughtful action, using our intelligence. It's not Prabhupada says that devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. So enthusiasm doesn't mean that, oh, I found this guru, I found this process, and now let me just dance in ecstasy. There's some imaginative ecstasy. And enthusiasm is not that, oh, my mind is telling me to do this, so let me do this. Rather, and this is why I read that quote, the basis of devotional service is practical activity. It is practical. That this is practically how I will reach my goal. Just like, again, in spiritual life, the content is very different, but the process actually mirrors our advancement in material things also. Except that in spiritual life, we also have this powerful thing called Krishna's mercy, which helps us. But even in material life, just like if I want to make money, then if I'm really enthusiastic about making money, then the way is not just to be money, money, money all the time and work day and night. No, I will have to actually make an action plan, use my intelligence, and then practically engage in that activity so that I can sustain it, be practical so I can sustain it and reach my goal. So that's enthusiasm. It's very deep, actually. Enthusiasm is not just so simple as people think. It's very thoughtful. Second is confidence. We can only sustain our enthusiasm when we have the full confidence that this process is correct. And we talked about this, so I won't go very deeply into this. Krishna is saying that this is where material process is different than spiritual process. Because in material life, we don't have confidence in something sublime, in something perfect. We know that, this can work or this cannot work. It is a matter of chance. Sometimes the most irresponsible person becomes very lucky and gets what he needs and doesn't get into trouble. And another person who's very responsible, very thoughtful, is not successful. So we cannot have confidence, full confidence in material people and material things. But in spiritual life, we can have full confidence in Krishna, because Krishna is perfect. Krishna is all perfect. He never makes a mistake. We were just speaking about this yesterday morning, that Krishna gives spiritual protection. And that spiritual protection is perfect. Materially, we may go through difficulties, but spiritually, Krishna will protect our soul and make sure that we reach our goal if we are enthusiastic. And then the last one, this one I wanted to talk about a little bit, patience, is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay. So in our enthusiasm, we sometimes want to see God face to face within 6 months, which Dhruva Maharaj did, and we want to do the same thing. In our enthusiasm, we want to become successful. We want to become a pure devotee overnight. And while that desire is very nice, here Rupa Goswami is saying, part of this process is patience. A person who will be successful on this path is someone who performs his activities very intensely, very regularly, but also patiently. And I'll give you an example of a devotee who didn't have patience and therefore was not able to sustain their spiritual life in the short term. So in the early days when Srila Prabhupada started this movement in New York, 26 Second Avenue in Manhattan, then all the devotees were very, very eager and very enthusiastic because of Srila Prabhupada's association. They were so happy, they were like levitating, right, on this cloud, because Prabhupada is Prabhupada. People would see him and they just wanted to surrender to Krishna. And this is the quality actually in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the quality of the highest devotee, and Rupa Goswami also says later verses in the Nectar of Instruction, is that just by seeing that devotee, a person wants to be a devotee. Just by seeing that person, one wants to chant. That is the quality of a great devotee. So when a great devotee comes and preaches to someone, you please start chanting, or you chant 16 rounds, people just do it. And when someone else asks, they don't do it. Why? Because the pure devotee is able to inspire that within their heart. So in Prabhupada's association, they were so inspired. So one devotee, he was just new, like 2 weeks into this. And he said, I'm going to start chanting 64 malas a day. So he started just doing 64 malas a day, which is what sadhus do once we are, completely, realized, then we can do that, or not completely realized, when we have, more maturity in our spiritual life, then we can increase the number of rounds. It's not necessary, even very, very advanced devotees, they chant 16 malas, but because they're also engaged in preaching activities, which is also chanting. But some may do it for rapid spiritual advancement. So he said, I'm going to start chanting 64 rounds. And the devotees mentioned to them that, it'll be too much. You don't have that taste right now. And then you'll become disillusioned because you won't get the taste. And then you'll think, 8-10 hours a day, what am I doing? Prabhupada also told him, it is not necessary right now. But he didn't hear. He was like, I'm going to become pure devotee. And so he started just chanting. And he chanted 64 rounds on the first day, then the second day. And then by the third day, he had disappeared and nowhere to be seen. By the third day, he could not control his mind, and he was chanting 10 hours a day, and he just disappeared. So Srila Prabhupada, after that, he told his disciples, he said, one cannot gain the kingdom of God by storm. In other words, we cannot force our way into Krishna's kingdom. That I'm chanting, so I must see Krishna. Just like Narad Muni, he sees the Lord, and then he starts intensely meditating again. And he says, I'll work so hard and I'll see the Lord again. But Krishna tells him, no, you must wait. You must be patient. So we cannot force our way into Krishna's spiritual abode, but rather we have to be in the mood of submission, that I am doing what the spiritual master and the scriptures have told me to do. I am practicing Krishna consciousness with full absorption 24 hours a day in the process that they've given. But now, when that bhakti fructifies, when I'm successful, that is up to Krishna. Then we have to depend on their mercy for success. This is what patience means. Prabhupada here is saying, one should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience. And then this final point, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So we should not feel more intelligent than the pure devotee or the spiritual master, that they're telling us do 16, no, I'll do 32. Or they're telling us, do this process of sadhana, but we start a different process because we are depending on their mercy. That the fruits of bhakti will fructify in time, and I have to be patient. So a great lesson that Krishna teaches us through the process of bhakti is patience. An example that Prabhupada gives is that just like the snake has scales, and someone may want to remove these scales, the scales of the snake. So if you go to the snake and you try to remove it, then he'll turn back and bite you. But if you just wait, then automatically the scales of the snake fall off. In the same way, if we execute devotional service with enthusiasm and confidence, in its own time, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, and when they see our sincerity, the scales will fall off and bhakti will fructify. This is also especially true when we are sharing or helping another person in their advancement in spiritual life. That may be a family member, or it may be a relative, or it may be a friend, or just someone that we don't know. Whoever it may be, we sometimes, out of our love and sincerity, really want to see them advance in spiritual life. And we may feel even impatient. Why are they not advancing? But Krishna is teaching us patience. That he's teaching us that ultimately I am the controller. We have to do our part. That is very important. Krishna sees our sincerity by the fact that we do our part. But after we have done our part, we cannot become angry or we cannot be angry or disturbed, because we know that the result is in Krishna's hands. That's patience, right? The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering as well, trouble as well, without getting angry or upset. So we can get a little upset, no problem. It's in human nature. But this principle of patience can be very helpful, that they will advance in their own time. So Prahlad Maharaj, as far as activity goes, recommends 9 processes of devotional service. The 9 processes of devotional service are as follows. 1, hearing the name and glories. These are the 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 2, chanting his glories. 3, remembering the Lord. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Serving the lotus feet, the Lord's lotus feet. Dasyam. Worshipping the deity. Archanam. Offering prayers and obeisances unto the Lord. Vandanam. This is Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, acting as the Lord's servant, Dasyam, making friends with the Lord, Sakyam, and number 9, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord, Atmanivedanam. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. And it ends with Atmanivedanam, surrendering fully to the Lord. So I'm going to stop this for 1 second. Just looking something up. So again and again, these 6 symptoms of surrender are coming. So what are these 6 symptoms of surrender? What is the symptom of a surrendered soul? There's 6 symptoms. And here they are. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, which are in this first one are 6 things, which we just saw. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service. The rejection of unfavorable things. So when we reject unfavorable things, then that is verse 2. So you see how these 6 divisions of surrender correlate with these verses that we're reading, and therefore this is actually the process of surrender that Rupa Goswami is describing here. Accepting those things favorable, rejecting unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection. So that is the second one. Utsahan Nishchayat. Nishchayat. Krishna will give protection. The acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. So Krishna will give all protection, and at the same time, understanding that one is about protection, understanding that the Lord is my master. The Lord is my caretaker. And the fifth one is full self-surrender, Atmanivedanam. And the sixth one is humility. These are the 6 symptoms of surrender. When one is surrendered to the Lord, one will be humble. That this is the Lord's will. My will is not so important. The Lord's will is very important. Full self-surrender and humility. So what does this mean in practical Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada describes in the purport, it means tat tat karma pravartana. That's the 4th one now. Utsahan nishya dharyat, enthusiasm, confidence, and patience. And then tat tat karma, accepting activities favorable for devotional service. So here, one thing that we can say is favorable for devotional service is accepting the 4 regulated principles of freedom. Accepting the 4 regulated principles of freedom and chanting a prescribed number of rounds. So if we are actually enthusiastic about spiritual life, if we are actually serious about spiritual life, we will do what is favorable. And these regulated principles that we follow, they can be seen in either way. They can be seen as 4 things not to do, and they can also be seen as 4 things to do. So I'll talk about that. And then the 5th thing is chanting our 16 rounds very nicely. That is favorable for our devotional service. So we do that because this is the number prescribed by all the acharyas. Every acharya, actually, I was just attending a lecture and it was mentioning, I was hearing a lecture and it is mentioning that that Srila Prabhupada said 16 malas, and even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had prescribed 16 rounds for his disciples. The 64 malas were just for the Vairagis, like the Vanaprasthas, the Sannyasis, those who did not have job or employment, did not have children, those who were, full-time, then they could do this. Then they had the time to do it. And it's very highly recommended. But it was not what he assigned. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur assigned 16 malas. And his spiritual master, all the way back to Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, showing us how to be a devotee. So they have prescribed this. Why? Because it's good for us. And therefore we accept it. Now the 4 regulated principles, we say no meat, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. So these are 4 things that we should not do. But then the 4 things that we are accepting are the regulated principles of freedom. So when we say no meat, the positive principle that we are accepting is the principle of compassion or mercy. So accepting the principle of mercy and compassion. A devotee should be very compassionate, very merciful to everyone, so that everyone is happy. Devotees compassionate for their spiritual life, especially, not sentimentally, but for their spiritual life. When we practice no illicit sex, then we are practicing or embracing the principle of cleanliness. Clean in our body, clean in our behavior, clean in our mind. In illicit sex, it means cheating. We're cheating on people. We're using them. They're using us. But no illicit sex means accepting the principle of cleanliness. No gambling means accepting the principle of what? No gambling means accepting the principle of
Honesty.
honesty. Yes, truthfulness. Very nice. Truthfulness. And finally, no intoxication means accepting the principle of someone else. So no intoxication means accepting the principle of what? When we give up drinking, smoking, tea, coffee, all these things.
Austerity.
Huh?
Austerity.
Very nice. Austerity or self-control. Yes. Austerity or self-control. So accepting that principle that no, I will be austere. I will not do something by which I cannot control myself, right? So that's the principle of austerity and self-control. So these are things that we accept. There's many other things, like, for example, accepting the process of sadhana, which is waking up in the morning and doing our Mangal Artik, accepting Krishna Prasadam. So not just that we are vegetarian, but we accept only Prasadam because we know that it helps us spiritually. Accepting the scriptures, reading the scriptures. So all of this comes under the principle of tat karma, activities favorable for devotional service. And what is the most important thing that we accept? What is the most important activity of devotional service? And that is accepting the association of devotees. Sato vritte, which is the last one. Accepting their association means following in their footsteps. We can only follow in their footsteps when we know what their footsteps are. So firstly, we are accepting their guidance, their leadership, accepting their example, and then following that example. Accepting it means following it. Sato vritte. And in order to do that, the helpful principle, the thing that helps our bhakti, is giving up the association of non-devotees. So these two are so important that Rupa Goswami puts them separately rather than under this banner. Because this could also be under this banner, but no. He specifies this. So you accept the activities favorable, but then you choose your association. It means that if you have bad association, give it up. Give up the association that is causing you pain, depression, unhappiness, and pulling you away from Krishna, and accept the association that is bringing you closer to Krishna, that is enlivening you. Yesterday, His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj was speaking. He was giving a very nice lecture at our home here in Naperville. And he actually, I want to go back and hear it again. He was saying how that a devotee does not allow himself to be hurt by others. You say, oh, devotee is so tolerant. Devotee is so compassionate. How is this? He says, if we allow others to hurt us, then we become victimized by their same modes. So let's say they're in the mode of passion and ignorance, and out of that they are damaging or hurting us, then we will also become victimized by that same mode. And it is part of the process of bhakti not to allow them to do that. Now you say, but how is that possible? Because in situations in this world, we find where people are more powerful than us, like Haridas Thakur, right? The Muslim king was persecuting him in 21 marketplaces and whipping him. And there are marks on his body, and Haridas Thakur was allowing them to do that. He was not afraid, he was allowing them to do that. So externally, he explained, you know, a thief comes in our home and they steal things, or someone comes and attacks us. They're hurting us. So how can the devotee not allow? Well, they can hurt the body, but whether they hurt us is optional. You see, they can hurt the body, but they cannot hurt us. They can only hurt us if we allow them to hurt us. Very deep instruction, very deep point that he was making yesterday. This it was easy to miss. He mentioned it in just a few lines, but such a deep point that the body they can hurt, but our most basic tenet in the philosophy is that we are not this body. But we, the soul, the person, they can only hurt if we allow them to hurt. This is what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also said, that ultimately, from a spiritual point of view, from an ultimate point of view, only we can hurt ourselves. No one else can hurt us. Because when Lord Jesus Christ or Haridas Thakur, when they were being persecuted by these people, he was, being crucified. Nails were put through his hands. When Haridas Thakur was being whipped, when all these great souls in the history of the world that you see, they were being persecuted or punished for their spirituality or just for being a good person, their minds were fixed on Krishna. They did not allow themselves to become victimized by the bad modes, by the negative modes of the other person who is trying to hurt them. Like Lord Jesus Christ, when he's on the cross, and he's seeing that these people are crucifying him, then what are his words on the cross? What are his famous words that he says?
Forgive them, Lord.
Forgive them, Lord, because they do not know what they are doing. Right? So they are punishing him, and they are, persecuting him. But Jesus Christ is thinking only compassion, and he's saying, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. They're acting out of ignorance. So we can see that though they tried, they could not hurt him. Right? So when we are even therefore the devotee, and once until we are on that stage of practice, and this is the point, until we are on that stage of spiritual practice, therefore, a devotee will protect his mind and body, will act in such a way to keep his mind and body focused on Krishna, regardless of the circumstance. Why? Because this is part of the process of bhakti, that we must, and gradually as we advance, then we can, surrender more and more to Krishna. And in this way we can, become more and more strong, like Haridas Thakur and Jesus Christ. But generally, what hurts us is our material aspiration that becomes foiled when someone else foils it. And therefore, others can affect us. But when we don't have the material aspirations, when our mind is only fixed on Krishna, then the other person cannot hurt us, because our goal is beyond this material world. And whatever they do actually helps us in the goal. It's like, you've noticed this when you become a devotee, then something bad happens, and then you see, oh, this is why it happened. This is Krishna's plan. This is why it happened. Because it happened, now I was able to get the Lord's mercy. I advanced in my spiritual life. So in the life of a devotee, it's kind of interesting that whichever way they turn, whichever way they go, it always seems to be a blessing. So like, well, which decision should I make? Because any way that I go, it's the Lord's mercy, and it's a fact. Because whatever happens for the life of a devotee can only help him, because it brings him closer to Krishna. Happiness brings him closer to Krishna. When he feels happy, he feels encouraged, enthusiastic in his devotional practice. But even distress, and distress becomes a great catalyst for him to become very close to Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is the only process by which we can make everything auspicious. Every aspect of our life, every part of our life will become auspicious because we will be able to engage that situation in Krishna's service. So giving up the association of non-devotees means giving up their mentality of passion and ignorance, not allowing their mentality to affect us, to hurt us, to sully our consciousness, to affect our consciousness. And thus being fixed, having our mind fixed upon the lotus feet of Krishna always. Then we can do it always, right? And this is the stage of nishtha. Nishtha means that the circumstance does not determine our Krishna consciousness, but rather we are always fixed in Krishna consciousness regardless of the circumstance. So in the initial stages of devotional service, when we are in a good association, in a good circumstance, then we are Krishna conscious. But otherwise we are not. But nishtha is the stage where the mind is completely fixed on Krishna. Therefore, this is just another meaning of this verse that Lord Chaitanya says, the third verse of the Shikshashtakam, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. That Lord Chaitanya is saying that one who's more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, he says that person can always chant my holy name perfectly, always, can incessantly chant my holy name. Why is he saying this? Because that is the real meaning of humility and tolerance. That we are not that, we go and embrace a tiger, we allow ourselves to be abused, to be, destroyed, but rather our mind is fixed on Krishna. That we don't allow, as far as possible, we actually don't allow it. We don't allow these modes to affect us. But then even if someone is coming and attacking us with those modes, we don't allow them to hurt us. And that is true tolerance, right? Because our mind, it can affect the body, but our mind is fixed on Krishna. So these are then the last. So giving up the association and accepting the association of devotees. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, Asat Sangatyag Ye Vaishnav Achar. A Vaishnav means one who has given up the association of non-devotee. Giving up the association of non-devotee means not just the physical form of the non-devotee, but giving up the association of the modes connected with non-devotees. This can mean television. When we're watching television, we are associating with non-devotees, with their modes. They have created it, and we're associating with it. When we're living in a very posh community, in a very beautiful environment with big homes and nice cars and and a lot of materialism, then becoming influenced by that association of materialism can be accepting the association of non-devotees. So we may not give up the physical circumstance, but we have to give up the modes, the mentality associated with that. So association with devotees is practicing the regulated principles. Practice the regulated principles with devotees. And if we do it with devotees, it becomes so joyful, so easy to become a devotee. Association, therefore, is our first principle. Everything comes by association. We must, if we want success in spiritual life, we cannot do it alone. We cannot sit alone in our home and do it. Unless it's with family members, then we have association. But even then, the whole family also needs association. We have to practice the regulated principles with devotees. go on yatras, right? Seek out advanced association. Yesterday, Rajesh Prabhu, who's on the call, he drove Chandramauli Maharaj back and forth from where he was to our home and back. And that association was so special. And the desire to do that service is the right desire, where we are seeking the association of very advanced souls. That is we have to make the effort, otherwise we'll miss the opportunity when it's there. And then we can move from matter to spirit, right? Then we can, wherever we are, we may be in the city, we may be in, surrounded by material life, but inside we will be fixed in Krishna. Our mind will be fixed on Krishna. So these are the 6 things that help us in our devotional life. This is just one verse. I spent a lot of time on this. So any comments or questions up to this point?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I have one quick question, especially patience and disassociating with the non-devotees, right? Point. Especially when people are in a transitioning mode, right? From non-devotional to devotional. I think you know my situation, like, when we have as a family to stay together, in that path, we might have like non-devotional connections in the past. So the challenge, what I have observed is, like, when we dissociate with them, sometimes they won't, there's a chance that they won't be inspired by what I am learning. What's the right way of doing that dissociation?
Yes. And actually, this is why I was mentioning this disassociation is disassociating with the modes, with the gunas, right? Sattva, rajas, and tamas, the passion and ignorance, disassociating ourselves with those modes. Not maybe externally. Externally, we have to keep up relations, right? We have to go to people's homes and we have to, do the things that we need to do, that our common sense tells us. But we have the option of disassociating with their modes. So when they go into materialistic conversations, we try to, and also you always can't just make every conversation spiritual. Like I see this at my work. Like, you have to do small talk. You have to talk about the Ukraine-Russia war without giving a spiritual commentary. You have to, those things also. So that is also. But real association means sharing our heart with someone, sharing food with someone, and sharing residence with someone. Right? That is real association. Late at night, talking. And actually, that's the next verse. That Rupa Goswami describes. This is such a, you could say, a sequence. It's so amazing. When I'm teaching it, I'm realizing even more that this final 2 that we said, associating and not associating with worldly minded people, he expands it in the next 2 verses by speaking of the 6 loving exchanges. So we have the 6 loving exchanges with the devotees, but with the non-devotees, we're not really associating because of these things. We're not sharing food. We're not sharing our heart, but we're doing the needful by discussing with them the importance of whatever is needed to be discussed. Just like a painter may come to our home to paint the house. That is association. But because that person comes and paints our house, and they even spend 2 weeks inside our house painting the house, doesn't mean that we're associated with them. Right? They're in our home for 2 weeks. They're our guests for 2 weeks. But their modes, they come in with their radio and they're like, you know how construction oftentimes workers are who are in the material world. They're, have a cigarette coming out of their mouth but their modes don't affect us because they're workers, and we all have the experience. But someone else may come for 2 days and they may be a very close friend. Our physical association is just 2 days with a very close friend. Why? Because their modes are affecting us, right? Our modes are in touch. Our heart, our mind is intertwined. So these connections that we have, that's the way we need to see them. That my mind is with devotees, and my heart, my thought process is now there. But these connections, they are there due to social custom. And hopefully I can influence them. Hopefully I can influence them.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I share something?
Yes, just actually, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the course. So an easy way that we do this is people raise their hand. So, and then I just
Sorry.
go over. No, the electronic hand. So
Yes.
yes, no problem. But please go ahead, and then.
But I will let that person go, whoever raised hands. Go ahead.
Okay, Rupesh Prabhu, and then Rupama. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Then
So when you, Prabhu, said that sharing the heart and food, so my question on is sharing food, does it mean, let's say, someone offer God fruits and give it to me? So can I honor that prasadam? Does it mean sharing, that kind of thing, or how does it work? Like people in back home, what happened? They get very offended if you don't take the prasadam. At least they are saying it's not meat, it's not nothing. Just fruit I offered to Krishna, and you should honor the prasadam. That's their logic.
Yes.
And so where we should stand in that point?
Yeah, so there's one principle, actually. I think we read it in the Nectar devotion, that the devotee does not neglect worldly customs or worldly respect. At the same time, the devotee is fixed in their principles. So regarding the offering, our philosophy tells us that what also matters is not just that it's offered, but who makes the offering. Right? Who makes the offering? When a pure devotee makes the offering, Krishna comes and personally eats the offering. When we make the offering, then Krishna may accept but not show his form. And if a non-devotee offers, then their offering may be not there, and therefore it's not so not all offerings are the same. Like we cannot, I just recently actually went to the one of the temples here. There's many temples in Chicago, and we never eat out, but we went to this temple. It was a Vaishnav temple. They have other gods, but it's a Vaishnav temple. I don't want to mention the name of the temple, just not to insult anyone, but we went there, and they had some curd rice and tamarind rice that they were offering at the temple to the guest. So I thought, this is at the temple, this is a guest, this is okay, this is prasad, I should accept it. This is here in Chicago, not India temple, just here. And then I was eating this curd rice, and very honestly, it tasted horrible. It was just like, I was like, it doesn't taste like prasad. It just tastes horrible. What should I do? And then like, why is it like this? This is at the temple, whatever it is, temple prasad. And then I saw this guy, he comes in, and he's just a worker. And the lady who's there, like he comes in with his sneakers, his shoes, he's going towards the commercial kitchen. He was, just like a Mexican guy, who never even knows anything. And the lady who was in front, whoever was reception, she was telling him that, we have about 100 guests coming tonight. You need to make 4 more pots of this this curd rice and tamarind rice for the 100 guests that are coming. And then I could understand they have this huge temple, but the person who was actually cooking was a person who was not even a Hindu by their standard. He was just a worker, they had hired at, maybe $10 an hour, and they had taught him. Some South Indian Mataji had taught him how to make curd rice and tamarind rice. And he had just, he was just repeating the thing with the same measurements. And then they would take that in front of, the deity and bring it down and serve it to people. So it's being offered at the temple. It's definitely much better than eating out at a restaurant. There's no meat being cooked there. There's not even onion and garlic. It's still better, but the person cooking it, their consciousness. And is Krishna going to accept that food? Though they're offering it, but who's cooking it and who's offering it? Is Krishna going to? Maybe not. So in the Gita, we were reading that the truth must be spoken, but in a way that is palatable. We were reading in Vachavegam, the first verse. So we should avoid, but we have to, every situation is different, and we have to see how we can do it palatably, which means that we may have to compromise a little bit with close relatives. Like you may need to say that, well, if one principle Prabhupada said, we can always be clear, everyone will understand, that we don't eat food that's been cooked in a kitchen that serves meat. Even the relatives need to understand that point. But if they have a vegetarian kitchen, then we can say, okay, we'll accept, and don't just stay there and accept every meal, just accept one meal so they're satisfied. But then you can offer it yourself. When it comes on the table, then you offer it to the Lord. And you and then you make sure, it's no onion, garlic, everything like that. So every situation is different. We have to see what we're doing. And then we're understanding that we're eating just to maintain the relationship, but not for our sense enjoyment. There's one instance where Srila Prabhupada went to the house of a very nice gentleman, and he was supporting the movement. Prabhupada was going to start the movement, I think it was in South Africa. And his host, he was just starting, so there's no devotees there. The host was a very pious Indian family. And they served Prabhupada prasad. And that prasad was not cooked by a devotee. They were not devotees. But Srila Prabhupada accepted it. And he told his disciples, he said, if I had not accepted, they would have been very offended. So I accepted it, just for the higher purpose of preaching. So to not destroy the relationship, to help them in spiritual life, one can do it, but then we eat minimally. We're not like, oh, okay, let me just, now get into it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. I just want to be little more clear. Like I'm from Bangladesh, and my family is not yet devotee. And I mean, in Bangladesh, this is a big issue right now going on. So when I go back, then I mean, my family try to maintain my request, like, okay, no meat eating should be done, or for whole month, for how long I stay, there should be only cooked, vegetarian food, or I mean, as ISKCON's principles. But so I was not sure, because I mean, they also asked me to offer, as you said, but only thing is, even also they maintain the cleanliness, like, okay, of course, taking a shower and go to the kitchen, and also every pots and everything's brand new, of course, not meat eating pots and everything. And I'm not sure the kitchen you means like they have different what do I say, guests, but So is that mean like it's a different kitchen? Can we just minimally accept and maintain the relationship, since it's my own family, father and mother, and of course they will be offended if I don't take it.
Yeah, and like I said, you should actually discuss with your own, kind of your mentor, your counselor, whoever is like, inspiring you in spiritual life for your specific circumstance, because this is so common. This is very common, and it's very nice that you're keeping your standard, you're trying to influence them, and then you're finding some middle ground. But make sure to take them also to the temple, or you sometimes cook and have them have Krishna Prasadam. So the best thing would be if you can go there and cook for them. But they will insist that they have to cook for you. So yeah, there's no simple way, I must say, because we've always done this also. Krishna, this is where we require some spiritual intelligence. And this is where we have to pray to Krishna, that please help me resolve this situation. And we'll see that Krishna will give us a path. So when we sincerely pray to him, then Krishna will show a path. He'll give a solution by which, this will work. So the key thing is our intention, right? That is our intention, okay, well, this is a excuse now for me to enjoy nice food. Or is my intention that somehow I'm just trying to manage things so Krishna is pleased? Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Rupa Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Sorry about that. Please accept my apology for not raising my hands.
No.
This is actually, I wanted to share related to these two Prabhus is actually talking about it. So my mom when she became a Krishna consciousness, she accepted. And I was a teenager. I remember my mom wants to be a devotee, the first person in the family that coming now. So therefore the family had been offended for different reason. And then, my mom is this only thing had told my family, I understand their priorities, but the point is I wanted to be a devotee. So therefore, she make up her mind. And of course, the family dragged these things for a long time. But when they see her, what she's trying to do and trying to say, then later on, it got really nice, and the family had accepted. And then also, they were very happy about it. Then I became part of this Krishna consciousness. They had a little bit fire up, but then they understand that thing. But until today, that other Prabhuji is from Bangladesh, they're saying about the cooking and not going home and accept how to tell them not to cook for me. So this is the thing is my mom is actually aware of. My mom, wherever she goes, everybody knows that she does not eat everybody's house unless it's a clear cooking. If they're very close families and friends, we always tell she's not going to eat at your house unless you're cooking a very clean. So I think so is if you speaking, what you are actually carrying, so people are very respectful. That's all, you have to maintain that. And you just let them know, no disrespect and no, offend. I actually trying to maintain my spiritual life and people will respect you. So thank you for letting me share, Prabhu.
Thank you for sharing this and sharing your personal experience, because it gives a lot of faith that, it is possible. And like you said, she set the standard. She still had to accept, but she set the standard. That unless you do it in a clean way, unless you offer to Krishna, unless you or have them cook and then you offer, that's another way. So at least the offering is done nicely. So yeah, Rupesh Prabhu, you can have them cook, but then insist that I will make the offering. You let me make the offering.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can also inspect their kitchen, right? And then gradually, if we are, and the best point I liked what Rupa Mataji said is that if we are very eager to be a devotee, then gradually they understand. Then they'll see, okay, this person is very eager, they're not relenting, so they will start to change.
Yeah, and that's Prabhuji, I just want to mention one small point. So the reason, as you mentioned, the reason we are sharing the food just to convince them to come into Krishna consciousness, not like okay, I'm enjoying their food. That should not be the mood. And
yes,
so
nice point.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Rajeshri, thank you. Rajeshri Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I just wanted to share briefly, not taking much of the time. So even I used to have a lot of these problems in my early days when I used to go to India. We are Gujaratis, so it's, vegetarian cooking, but, onions and garlic, that's part of the cuisine. So when I was very new and I used to go and I used to say, oh, I don't eat onions and garlic. I remember my uncle, he would take a raw onion, eat in front of me. See, we eat it like this. You don't eat this? So they used to really mock and ridicule me. So over the years, what I used to do was I used to buy my own fruits and I used to just say, oh, I have diarrhea, I'm sick on my stomach, so I'm just going to eat these fruits. So then my aunt would again, put a comment, oh, no, she's not sick. She just does not like these onions and garlic, so she's just making this up. So over the years, then I just stopped going to their homes. I would go to India on Dham Yatras and just not tell them that I came. And then after I would come, oh, yeah, I came for a short time. I just couldn't come because the comments were too strong. And this is not from my parents. These are like uncle, aunt, extended family, who probably saw me growing up. So they couldn't see the change or, oh, she went to America. Now she changed like this. No, we eat onions like this, and he's like eating and making that sound in front of me. So it was not easy. And now I just don't talk to them.
I see. Yes, so this is also, just see, very nice that some relations we don't have to maintain if they're not willing to accept. And what can we do? So all very good. Okay, so I was thinking actually this last verse of this next verse, it directly connects with our discussion here. So let's do one more verse, but this will be much quicker because this is the same, the discussion we've done. We will just read it. So we will read it. We will just go over the philosophical points. So now, how do you associate? So we said association is there. And we must accept the association of devotees, and we must give up the association of non-devotees. And here, Rupa Goswami is telling us, what does it mean to accept the association of anyone? And if we're associating with devotees, this is what it is to devotees. You'll see that even in business life, in worldly life, this is how people make relationships. And when we apply this to devotees, then it becomes perfect. Dadati pratigrihnati guhyamakhyati prichati bhungte bhojayate chaiva shadvidham priti lakshanam. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So now, back to the slides. So, Dadati, offering charitable gifts. So, to make a relationship with a friend or to make someone your friend, you give them some gift. This is association, because the gift reflects your consciousness. Right? If you give a child as a gift the Xbox, then your consciousness of playing video games is going into the child. So offering charitable gifts is sharing a loving exchange. Now, we cannot just give. This is a very important principle in spiritual life. This is why you'll see even advanced devotees will accept some service. They will allow people to help, all these things. Why? Because a relationship cannot develop just by giving. Because then the other person will feel, well, are you saying that I'm useless? This is also a very important point in relationships, like family relationships. Sometimes we don't give to others, and that destroys the relationship. But also, if we are just giving, but we're not accepting their contribution, not accepting that they are also giving to us, not accepting the fact that they are needed and valuable in our life, then they'll feel lost. They'll feel like, this person actually doesn't love me. Why? Because people want to be wanted. So we have to give in any relationship, but we also have to accept the fact that we also need their love. So we have to accept charitable gifts. Pratigrihnati. Guhyamakyati. Discussing confidential topics. So we have to discuss our heart, revealing one's mind. Prichati, inquiring confidentially. We must inquire from them. How is your Krishna consciousness? How was your chanting today? What did you read? Did you read something nice about Krishna? How is your family's health? This is part of bhakti. We should not feel, some people actually, they say, oh, I'm sorry, am I burdening you? Is it okay? No, this is part of bhakti. This is not a problem. This is very good. We should discuss confidential topics, not with non-devotees. If we do it with non-devotees, that means we're associating with them, but with devotees. They're the ones we give our heart to. And bhunkte, honoring prasadam, and bhojete, offering prasadam. When I was in college, I realized that all relationships were made, at least 90% of them were made in the canteen hall, in the food place. And if I didn't eat with them, then though I was studying with the other students, I really wasn't associating with them. The whole material thing is like, it's the food, right? So which we discussed in detail. So that's why I wanted to discuss today, because actually our discussion, our questions are related with this verse, and so it kind of completes it. This is the thing. But on this point of discussing and inquiring confidentially, asking questions is part of the process of spiritual life. Inquiring, right? Revealing one's mind. And when we ask questions, and when our faith and confidence in the process, in devotional service, and the devotees increases, then this is where heart becomes. And you'll see this, it naturally happens in spiritual life. Like I go to work, I do all these things, but in terms of the unfortunate side of my work, people can see that actually my heart is not there, right? And I see that others, their heart is there, have a tough time. Like, they're like totally, this is their life. Their work is their life. But we'll see that because the devotees are so attractive and the association devotees are so attractive, that the devotee's life will attract us. Krishna will attract us. So our heart becomes given to them. There's this one little Panchatantra fable that describes a monkey who had to cross the river. And this is association and how to balance, which is exactly the question that was being asked. So the monkey has to cross the river, and the only person who can cross him is an alligator. He lives in the river, and monkey doesn't have a boat. So he has to use the alligator to cross. So the alligator comes and he says, monkey, I can help you get across. And he says, yes, alligator, can you help me? And the alligator is very happy. My gosh, Here's my next meal. The monkey's such a fool. So the alligator takes the monkey on his back and is gliding across the river. And halfway through, he tells the monkey, now I will eat you, and especially your juicy heart. The monkey's heart is very famous for being very juicy. Most of it is just bones, he's just like, but the main meat is his heart. So the monkey tells the alligator, he says, sir, you're most welcome to take my heart, but I forgot my heart on the tree. So take me to the tree. I'll run up the tree. I'll get the heart, and then you can eat me. So the alligator has the brain of a pea, this size brain. So he says, the monkey doesn't have the heart. So how, if I eat him, what will happen? I won't enjoy, there won't be any meat in him. So he says, okay, I'll take you to the tree, which is on the other side. You can get the heart, and then I will eat you. So he gets to the other side, and the monkey climbs up the tree, and he's safe. He doesn't come back down. So the message of this is that we should make friendly relationships with everyone, but we should only give our heart to the devotees. Association means, who do you give your heart to? So confidential things we don't discuss with those who are not qualified. We discuss with the devotees, because they are the actual ones who can help us. The evening time, our vulnerable moments, these are to share with devotees. Like yesterday, Chandramani Maharaj came and he was telling us that how Maharaj was here until like late. He already, it was so late, and we thought right after the program he'll leave, but then he sat and he was talking for another hour, another 2 hours, and we were thinking, Maharaj, it's getting so late. And as he was leaving, we were apologizing. We were saying, Maharaj, we kept you for so long and it's gotten so late. And he said, no, sometimes, he said, I was, he travels a lot with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And he said, we would be up until 1 a.m. talking. We'd go for a program, and after that, do the program and talk till 1 a.m. And he said, he was saying out of his humility, he was saying, Maharaj trained me up, because this is the process of bhakti. This is how we are associating. So materialists do this all the time. They go to someone till 1 a.m. They're, chatting and gibbering and jabbering, all these things. But the devotees are also doing this, but they're doing it with other devotees. They are they're conversing about Krishna until 1 a.m. So very quick points here, just a few slides. Offering and accepting gifts in charity, distributing the holy names, transcendental literatures, and prasadam. This is a gift. This is the gift of charity that we're giving. When we are giving books, we're actually giving charity. We are offering gifts. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This society was started single-handedly, but because people are coming forward and dealing with a give and take policy, the society is now expanding all over the world. So normally give and take is seen in a negative context, but Prabhupada here is saying that these 6 loving exchanges is what is making this Krishna consciousness movement expand. We must also accept these gifts to make spiritual advancement. So we must accept the gift of the holy name, the gift of Krishna Prasadam. Someone calls us the gift of these transcendental literatures. Then we can advance. We are not powerful enough to enchant the lower animals, such as tigers, snakes, cats, and dogs, or entice them to dance. But by chanting the holy names of the Lord, we can actually convert many people throughout the world to Krishna consciousness. Contributing or distributing the holy name of the Lord is a sublime example of contributing or giving charity, the Dadati principle. By the same token, one must also follow the Pratigrihnati principle, and be willing and ready to receive the transcendental gift. So the whole, actually, Prabhupada here, what he's pointing out, the whole process of sharing Krishna consciousness, of preaching, is actually the 6 loving exchanges. We are giving, we are taking, we are accepting the holy name of Krishna, and then we are giving that to others. The holy name and the message of Krishna, this philosophy, the transcendental message. By the same token, one must also follow the Pratigrihnati principle and be willing and ready to receive the transcendental gift. So contributing or distributing the holy name and receiving the holy name. This is spiritual life. This is what we have. This is our process. This is what we have. And this is also, and this process is experienced through the loving relationship. So our faith in the holy name, our experience of the holy name can grow by loving relationship. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This society was started single-handedly, but because people are coming forward and dealing with the give and take policy, the society is now expanding all over the world. We are glad that people are donating very liberally to the development of the society's activities, and people are also eagerly accepting whatever humble contribution we are giving them in the shape of books and magazines dealing strictly with the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. We sometimes hold Hare Krishna festivals and invite life members and friends to participate in the feasting by accepting prasad. Although most of our members come from the higher rungs of society, they nonetheless come and take whatever little prasad we are able to offer them. Sometimes the members and supporters inquire very confidentially about the methods of performing devotional service, and we try to explain this. In this way, our society is successfully spreading all over the world, and the intelligentsia of all countries is gradually appreciating our Krishna conscious activities. The life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges among the members. The life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges amongst the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with the devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. Just by these 6 loving exchanges, anyone can fully revive their dormant Krishna conscious activities. Okay, so we completed these 2 verses. I wanted to do at least 2 verses a day. We went a little over time today. Sorry about that, about 10 minutes over time. And thank you for your association. I posted all the homework, so you have it, but I'll try to post it again. It's on the WhatsApp group. Please do that and memorize the first 3 verses. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Leela, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavas from Sangu Shishila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, this is my first class, so I got to this class through one of the devotees in Atlanta. So I just joined, but I don't know how to register and everything. And
okay, yes. So please message me, and I will. You don't really have to register. You do. There's a sheet. I'll send it to you. But the main thing is to do the classes and homework. So
sure.
Are you on the WhatsApp group?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I'll repost the homework so you have it, and then let's communicate via the WhatsApp. Just message me again. If you messaged me before and I didn't respond, just please message me again.
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Same with everyone else. Please just message me. I actually have to go now. I have a session starting in 3 minutes, so I'll just leave now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.